All right, welcome to this deep dive. We're tackling top 10 lessons from Atomic Habits by James Clear today, and this one's for you.
Okay.
You reached out about this one, maybe thinking about how to actually make those changes that you want and stick to them without, feeling totally overwhelmed.
Right.
So our goal, as always, is to kind of cut through all the noise and give you those really core actionable insights.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that is just fascinating right off the bat with Clear is he talks about the power of making small and consistent improvements.
Okay.
And it's almost like he's saying, you don't need to make these massive changes. It's really about, accumulating small, consistent daily efforts.
Yeah,
He calls it the compound interest of self-improvement.
I love that.
And a lot of that, hinges on focusing on your systems instead of your goals.
Okay, let's unpack that a little bit because I think that's a really key point. And Clear is famously known for saying, "You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems."
Right.
Which I think is kind of a brilliant way to look at it because we are so goal oriented.
Yeah.
So what's the real difference, I guess, for you for our listener, in focusing on systems versus just setting that target? What kind of daily routines should they be thinking about?
So think about it like this.
Okay.
Your goal might be to learn a new language,
Okay.
but your system is the 15 minutes you dedicate each day to practice.
Got it.
And I think oftentimes the frustration we feel when we're not reaching our goals, it's not a lack of motivation.
Hmm.
It's a poorly designed or even an invisible system.
Oh, interesting.
So taking a look at, where are the bottlenecks in my current daily routine
Right.
in relation to this goal can actually be a little bit more revealing than just simply saying, okay, I'm going to achieve X, Y, and Z.
So this is where it gets really interesting, I think, is this concept of identity-based habits
Right.
that Claire talks about. He says, true habit change comes when your habits become part of who you see yourself to be. So it's a shift from I want to do this to I am this kind of person. Like instead of saying I want to be someone who exercises, you think I am an active person.
Right.
How does that subtle shift, how does that change things?
It's powerful because it aligns your actions with your core identity.
Okay.
If you see yourself as an active person, choosing to take the stairs or go for a walk is an effort.
Yeah.
It's just what you do.
It's who
It's who you are.
Right.
Yeah, it's about embodying that identity.
So then, practically speaking, how do we actually make those habits stick? We've identified who we are, but how do we then get there? Claire Paulsa talks about making it obvious. He
Right.
talks about visual cues and habit stacking, which I think is really interesting. Can
Right.
you give us an example of using habit stacking, something that our listener could kind of easily implement?
So habit stacking is incredibly practical.
Okay.
It's simply attaching a new habit to an existing one.
Yep.
So, um, let's say, for example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will set out my workout clothes.
Got it.
So your coffee becomes the trigger
Right.
to preparing for your workout.
I like that.
So think about, what is something in your current routine that is super reliable that you could use as an anchor for a new habit?
Great example. Now, what about making those habits appealing?
Right.
Because let's face it, some things, that we want to do that we know are good for us, they're just not inherently fun.
Yeah.
Clear talks about temptation bundling.
Right.
What's that all about?
So temptation bundling is essentially linking something that you need to do
Okay.
with something that you genuinely enjoy doing.
Okay.
So let's say you only allow yourself to listen to your favorite audiobook while you're doing household chores,
Oh, I see. Okay.
right? So the enjoyable activity becomes the reward that makes the less appealing task more attractive.
I like that.
So, think about what is something that you could pair with a habit that you're trying to build
Mhm.
to make it more enticing.
All right. I love that practical twist.
Yeah.
Now, making habits easy, reducing friction.
Right.
Clear talks about designing your environment.
Right.
What's a small change, something that our listener could do right away that would, just change their surroundings and make a good habit the easy choice?
It's all about setting yourself up for success.
Okay.
So if you want to drink more water, keep a full water bottle visible on your desk.
Okay.
If you're aiming to eat healthier snacks, have, a bowl of fruit readily available instead of processed foods.
Got it.
So it's these small changes that minimize the effort
Right.
required to do the desired action.
That makes sense. And then how do you stay motivated?
Yeah.
Once you've made that change, Clear talks about making habits satisfying and the power of tracking.
Yes.
Why is that immediate feedback loop so important?
Our brains are really wired for immediate rewards.
Yeah.
And while, the real benefits of good habits often take time,
Right.
that immediate satisfaction can help us to reinforce that behavior.
Right.
So, tracking your progress, even as simple as marking a calendar,
Okay.
provides
yeah.
that sense of accomplishment right away, and it motivates you to, to keep going.
Yeah.
So how could you create a small, immediate reward
Right.
for sticking to that new habit?
Great question. Clear also points out the powerful influence of our environment,
Right?
not just physically, but socially.
Yeah.
So how do the people around us, how do they shape our habits?
We tend to mirror the habits of our social circles.
Oh, that's interesting.
So being around people who prioritize healthy habits can naturally encourage you to do the same.
Makes sense.
So it's worth considering, are there aspects of your social environment that you want to be a little bit more intentional about?
And then finally, we've got to talk about the never miss twice rule.
Right.
Because life, it throws curveballs, things happen.
It does.
So what's the key message here?
It's about building resilience and not striving for perfection.
Okay.
So missing a habit once is a minor setback,
Right.
but missing it twice starts a new pattern.
Yeah.
The key is to get back on track immediately after a slip-up.
Right.
So how can you kind of build in a little bit of self-forgiveness and a plan to recover quickly?
I like that. So it really sounds like, with Atomic Habits and with what we've talked about today, it's about making those small, consistent actions.
Yes.
Focusing on who you want to become and building systems that support that identity.
That's right.
And then, allowing for that compounding effect, right?
Wow.
To really take over and make the big changes that you want.
Exactly. It's the long game. It's those 1% improvements consistently applied
Right.
that lead to significant change.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And it's an ongoing journey, right? It's not a destination.
That's a great way to put it. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you some really useful ideas to think about and implement.
Yeah.
What's one tiny system that you might put in place today?
Mhm.
There's always more to explore
Absolutely.
with understanding how these habits can really shape us. So, yeah, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Like and subscribe.